Well, good morning. It's, the 20th of December at 07:32, and I'm calling the SELCO monthly meeting to order. With that said, one of the article, we've got a quorum, so we're ready to go on that. And some true business to get onto. First off, the bills and warrants.
Bill schedules.
Yep. Do we have any questions on the warrants at all? If not, do we have a motion to accept the?
Do we have, we don't have to sign any bills or warrants?
Pardon? Yeah, there's a package, they've got what we got. Okay. They can be signed, but all in, so we have a motion and a second,
moved.
okay? All in favor, bills and schedules and warrants?
So moved.
So moved, okay, we're all set on that. Next item is to approve, review and consider the approval of meeting minutes of, there's 3 in the package, June 21st. We'll take that one first. Any comments on that? If not, hearing none, the November 15th minutes. Not hearing any comments on that, we'll move to December 7th, 2022. And if we have no comments on those minutes, then do I have a motion to accept all 3 minutes as submitted?
I don't.
Oh, you don't? You have a comment?
I do.
Okay. Oh,
Hold on.
okay.
The first one?
The first one, the June 21st?
Yep.
Okay.
So, under 5, review of the audited financial statements, I think that accrued depreciation should be accumulated. Is that right?
Let me double check. I didn't see the minutes, but what?
It says, due to an issue with accrued depreciation, it should be accumulated
Yes.
depreciation.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. And under 7, that sentence where it starts, Mr. Zucco explained that we need to make sure that we are not outpricing ourselves in a competitive market. The next part of that sentence doesn't sound right. Market factors in the next few years, prices may be affected. It just doesn't sound right. Market factors in the next few years, prices may be affected due to changing technology and market shifts.
I see what you're saying here.
Right? Should it be like market factors in the next few years will impact or may affect prices? Like, I just feel like that's right. Right? That's how it should be. Market
Sure.
factors in the next few years
May affect
may affect prices due to
Yes.
changing technology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Everybody concur?
Yep.
Okay. With those corrections, do we, everyone in favor of approving the 3 sets of minutes of June 21st, November 15th, and December 7th?
Yes.
So moved, okay.
Second?
We're all set, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is, importantly, we've got some significant things to discuss this morning. Today is review and consider the approval of the cable TV franchise agreement proposal with the town of Shrewsbury. We've been meeting in executive session to discuss this, and this should bring it all to the forefront, I think, as far as getting ready to submit our franchise agreement. And with that, Mr. Roy, can I turn it over to you, sir?
All right, thank you. So basically dovetailing off of our prior conversation, the package you see before you is what we'd consider the final draft. We took the feedback from the last meeting, the proposal, all the numbers remain the same. The change that was made from, geez, was that last week? 2 weeks ago?
A week and a half ago,
A
yeah.
week and a half. We updated the table in the executive summary memo, if you will, that hopefully presents the financial components of this new agreement in a clearer fashion. So if you're following along, then on that agreement memo, page 4 starts the proposal comparison details, and I figured I would just speak to those real quick. So overall, this covers compares the current terms to the proposed terms. So what we see here is basically the summary overall that we currently, in aggregate too, so we also pulled in the other financial components, not just the specific franchise-related TV service components, but also the other mechanisms that are used to provide funding to the town. So here, current terms, just to summarize the big picture items, we contribute $1,448,000. Proposed is $1,419,000, so that's a net change of $28,000 less. But I did want to use that as a talking point there, where that is based, this is all based on 2021 numbers. So the 2022 numbers, given this is largely based on TV service, those numbers continually go down. So, so that number, that 28,000 deficit, would actually be perhaps less, if not the other direction, where this is providing more funding, because just as an example, in this table here, it shows SMC PEG operations at $411,000 in 2021. This year's budget is $369,000. So we're talking about a $40,000 price swing in just 1 year. And so the idea here is to show the cash flow based on known numbers. But once 2022 is out, you'll see that this actually becomes more favorable because we've shifted the funding mechanisms from being based on the provision of TV service, which is declining, to more largely based on a payment in lieu of taxes, otherwise known as pilot, that is based on, in this case, a proposed net plant, and that continues to rise. So we've shifted declining funds to something that increases funds. But if you look purely at the 2021 numbers, you'll see that it's within 2%.
Can we just add that to that table? I know I didn't put it in there, but can we just add, like, at the beginning? Like, I know it was included originally, it said based on 2021 numbers.
Sure.
Just add that in there.
Sure,
before
we
you
can
put it-
absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, I appreciate what you did on the tables. They were
Yes.
very nice.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, I feel like, is this what you were
The
looking for?
presentation's so much more clear on the finances. I think it's really excellent. Thank you. Did you work on that, Maria?
I did.
That's awesome. It looks really great.
Well, and the big point on this whole effort, as far as this franchise agreement is that nominally, it would have been a real cut in revenue to the town if we had just gone in the old rules of the only thing that held our feet to the fire was the amount of cable subscribers, because with a considerable number of people who have cut the cable over the several years since this has been put into effect, there would have been a significant reduction. And because this directly or indirectly affects SMC as well, as far as their funding and the methodologies, that this really does level the playing field for those folks and for the town itself. That's my opinion, at least.
I agree.
Okay.
It's a good way to do it.
Again.
So that's reflected, and other than that, from our last discussion, everything is,
Well, we've had some significant discussions already on the, on this franchise agreement. Do we have any other comments or anything, or can we have a motion to accept with the correction or the addition that Maria has made, making it to
And so
2021?
moved this.
To approve, to approve the franchise agreement, to forward it to the Board of
Right,
Selectmen.
it's gotta go
I
through.
just had a question.
Yes, sir.
I was
Yep.
in Germany for the last meeting, so sorry about that. But I was just curious, when we had previously discussed, we were, it sounds like you guys did a lot of work in that last meeting to kind of get it to where it is, and I saw that in the changes, and it's great. But all along, we were talking about sort of the art of talking with Kevin, and how has that progressed at all? Are they aware of this? Just
Yes.
trying to understand the cadence of the communications.
yes. So he is aware. Basically, I think it was, we're all on the same page, trying to at least maintain some form of level funding
Yeah.
mechanism to do this. And again, that's why I kind of wanted to call attention, because the numbers look lower. But again, the key point there is, I mean, it's within a couple percentage points, even 2021. But what it does is it pulls the funding away from being reliant, I'm sorry, I'm repeating myself, but on the TV side. And so, the short answer is yes, he is aware. And there is the summary table, just to, for folks that maybe can't see it. There is a summary table here that shows the impact to the 4 primary business units. So on page 5, total budget impact purely based on a cash basis. So we have 4 categories: the town's general fund, which incorporates not just municipal services, but that's the overall $129 million tax-based general fund. So that's the town's fund. There's SMC, and then there's the SELCO cable and electric businesses. So here, what this has done, again, based on 2021, is it shows a decrease in the overall payments that SELCO provides to the town, to the general fund, if you will, of $131,000. But it shows an increased SMC of $103,000 in the overall package. Now that number is different for 2022. I'm sorry to reemphasize that multiple times. So again, that's as far as I could tell to your point about the different levers. There are other things we can do if the 131 is a challenge, then we can obviously make up for that in pilot, because the noteworthy point is pilot agreements don't have any specified formula. The commission can decide to make that payment whatever it wants to be. So I just propose that it's net plant times tax base as a starting point. But you can make that number anything you want. So if this goes to the select board, and then we go through the process through January and February, and 131,000 here, which is less, we could try and get by that point some 2022 numbers. Pilot can be used as a measure to
make it right.
Make
or level
adjustments.
the playing field.
yes.
But the bottom line is, you have talked with Kevin.
Yes, that was a long answer to yes.
Okay. And with that, do we have a motion to move the proposed franchise agreement to the select board to present?
So moved.
Okay, and a second?
A second, I just want to say just terrific work. I know what the effort that this takes, and it's it's a 1 in 10 years and maybe now 1 in 5 year effort, but it's really great job, great work. Great, you took our feedback, and you also were extremely thoughtful in how you approached it, how you presented it. Really, really terrific work.
Great. Okay, well, all in favor then?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay, so be it. Okay. So with that correction doing there, we'll be all set. The next thing that we move to is the annual SELCO cost of living adjustment. Again, Mr. Roy.
All right. Okay, so here we are in our annual, so I guess I'll step back 1 second. So we are on the calendar year, and every year now, November, December timeframe, we have a recurring agenda item for the commission to take a look at what cost of living adjustment should be applied to any employee not covered under a collective bargaining agreement. And just for a refresher, that is, of our round numbers, our 70-odd employees, 50 of those are not covered by a bargaining agreement. So it's that's the majority share of the employees. And so one of the things we look to do is a two-part process. There's the cost of living adjustment, and then we have our annual performance evaluations, which are set by the policy that was voted in 2021. So those metrics are there and remain unchanged year over year. The COLA is obviously what we look to discuss on an annual basis to be reflective of the state of the world and the state of the economy. And so, like many things, this is another unprecedented time, and so this is one of those tricky ones to balance. Well, what do we do with respect to cost of living? And so we all watch the news and see the articles, and so our employees are impacted like anyone else out there in the world. So we try and provide a recommendation based on a defined set of metrics that are certainly open to discussion, and so the best metrics that I've found to leverage here, as you see in the memo, is Social Security, which is largely based on the Consumer Price Index, which we call out separately here in the benchmark section of the memo. And we also provide the history of what COLA has been according to Social Security going back to 2008. And so that's where what we thought would have been one of the highest ever, but in 2008, that was just to quickly summarize verbally, 5.8% was the 2008 Social Security COLA. And then it stabilized for a number of years, and then we circled back to a 5.9 last year in 2021. And however, as we've all experienced, if anyone is on we'll talk to the agenda item for GTA. If anyone still has oil heat or gone to the gas pump or had to buy groceries, costs don't seem to be coming down. We receive memos regularly from our vendors that costs continue to rise. And so this is our effort to react to that for the cost increases our employees see. And so what we're recommending is trying to stay consistent with Social Security as the benchmark increase that folks on fixed income get, to my best of my knowledge. And it's the highest it's been in 40 years, as a reflection of the highest inflation and price increases we've seen. Everyone knows better than I. So that was where we were looking to start the discussion, is trying to see how.
So 8.7 is your proposed for
Yeah.
all non-union employees of SELCO?
Correct.
Okay. Open for discussion.
Do we have a dollar amount?
Yeah.
Do we know what that impact is if we go 8.7% across the board?
I don't have a dollar amount, something I'd have to look into and get back to you on.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting at least to understand the financial impact, the dollar amount, and the impact on cash flow, how it flex electric versus cable.
Okay.
So a little more background on it.
Do that.
The other thought I had was I just from a memory standpoint, I know we talked about doing the annual COLA adjustment. Was that just a policy decision we made 6 months ago, and this is now implementing it, or did we actually do a COLA adjustment last year?
Yeah, we did.
We did a COLA last
Yeah,
year.
that's how we
Okay.
set it up, was last year. when we
Okay,
voted.
and did we do the, in 21, the 5.9
Yes.
COLA adjustment? Okay.
Yes.
So, assuming there is a significant, there has to be, you know, just rough numbers, somewhere close to like $500,000, what are the ramifications of that, on the budget? Do we have a sense of that?
So, well, I could quickly launch into it. So we have, I mean, we could look at our overall, so the analysis that we would put into that is we could look at the overall payroll component. I believe payroll on average is about 10% of our overall budget. So we're talking about 8.7 on 10%. Different than the town as well, we're an accrual-based system, so any impacts to employees' COLA would be incorporated in an adjustment like any other utility such as National Grid, Eversource, Verizon, Comcast. So that's the other component where we're not looking at a set bucket of budgetary expenditures. It's just in some ways proposed as a philosophical decision that you know, that would be adjusted in rates, but the you know, I'm just wondering, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head to throw out a quick number, but the overall payroll, because this is a common component in the public power sector. I mean, payroll is compared to power supply now, especially with the GTA conversation to come, is doesn't move the mark, because that's a common thing you see to the public, right? Oh, you give out a raise that had a material impact on rates, and we can pull that together for sure, but there's ample evidence to show that increases to employees are negligible impact on rates because it's such a small component of our budgets.
And that's essentially where like, the crux of my question is just more the messaging of it, because everybody's experiencing it. I'm supportive of, you know, of this, but I just think that messaging and then just really understanding the finances that, you know, to your point, I think would be helpful. Is there a timing thing on this? Because we're nearing, it's the last meeting of the year.
Does this have to hit the payroll for January 1st to 15th or whatever?
No, in fact, we were just talking about that. We can always retroactively apply adjustments, so we could add it to the January meeting. And
The other feedback I'm kind of looking for, just so we have the whole picture, I guess, is if there are any statistics on a National Grid or you know, if that even exists, right? What measure they might have used, what the increases might have been in the private sector, but also then in the public sector, other munis or town of Shrewsbury, whether there's a COLA adjustment and what they used, just so that we're not, you know, I don't know, flying out there. Just have a little more information all around, so that when we're making the decision, which just seems like a logical thing what we're doing, and being consistent and makes sense, that we're not this outlier potentially, you know.
sure.
One of the things you want to be careful of is comparing us to the town entity. Because, you know, when I first started in this industry over at Belmont, there was a big debate over how come, you know, the utility members are getting paid more than the town members, and what it comes to is competition, right? If I leave here, I don't go to a town department, I go to the Eversource, the NSTARS. One of the things that we're looking to do right now is bulletproof one of the biggest threats I kind of see to the organization, and that's personnel. If I was to do a SWOT analysis today, that would be one of the biggest threats I would see, because we have a company that's at a pivotal point where you have all these custom and homegrown and manual processes and systems in place that throughout time have tried to accept all this complexity, and you have certain individuals in these positions that are holding them up. So those are your drivers of the business. When you lose one of those people, that can be astronomical to the organization. And our ability to retain and recruit people is directly affected heavily by salaries and benefits. One of the things that I can give you as a perfect example, we lost somebody last March. We haven't been able to fill that position until January is when we're hoping the person will start. That directly impacted me throughout the whole, conversion process I was going through, I had to double down on my effort. So there were certain points where the amount of stress and effort that comes into an employee, you're sitting there going, is this worth it? So for us to continue forward, one of the things that I'm hoping we can kind of have or kind of make sure we're looking at is that personnel factor, because even like customer service, right? They're down one person right now. The amount of extra stress that puts on everybody else is astronomical. So now if we can't get that other position filled, how long before we could lose one of those people and now all of a sudden you're down to 3 or less. So those are kind of the impacts and stuff. One thing I will apologize for, because of the system conversion, I'm probably 6 to 8 weeks behind, so I haven't been able to pull a lot of additional analysis for Chris to kind of look into this stuff. One thing that's always a little bit difficult too is figuring out, for certain employees, how much of their cost, and this is what we've been kind of going through the last couple of years, hits electric versus cable and making sure that's perfect. And that's one of the things we're going to be fine tuning over the next couple of years to make sure that's accurate, but we'll try to get you an analysis, to show you those numbers and figures and see how that kind of pans out.
Yeah, and I don't take my comment down. I've been on this board now a long time, and 15, almost 20 years, and we've always approached it as competitive to the private sector, not competitive to the town of Shrewsbury. That said, from a commission standpoint, I think it's kind of our job to just have information and to understand when we make a decision, how are people going to react, or how are going to people view it, and then also how we're going to message it and communicate it. So that it's just information gathering, and so from that standpoint, and I appreciate the personnel. The other thought I have is, if we're increasing somewhere and there is an impact on the budget, then the question is, how do you get more efficient somewhere else potentially, and that's was always, and I had felt in the past, the missing element. I've never seen a report in the near 20 years which said, hey, and it may be happening, but hey, we thought about how we're doing X, Y, Z. We realized we're not doing it that efficiently. We're now doing it this way, and we saved ourselves these dollars. In the private sector, I hear that all the time. Now, maybe just fake bragging, right? But I hear that all the time. How to make your organization more efficient? How do you run it more efficiently? I've never heard that at SELCO once. And so that's one of my goals for you guys, is to every once in a while hear that piece, just so when we recognize what we have is personnel and how important personnel is to us, and the drive that I think there's not a person on this commission that doesn't want to pay its people very well, right? We are the organization, but we also have to recognize we've got a budget and we have rates and we have people paying, and we it's our job also to make sure we're running as efficiently as possible. So.
Nope, no, totally appreciate that, and I think that's to that point, it's a good statistic to have. Again, just to show it's just a fact. Here's our line item for personnel. Here's our overall budget. Our personnel costs are a small percentage. I mean, just alone, I'll throw Ralph a bit of credit. We had a transformer. This is the supply chain issue, right? Our transformers, as everyone knows, the supply chain has gone crazy. We had a bid for $1 million for transformers to come in a year from now. Ralph kept his ear to the pavement, and he got it down to just over 400,000 through requoting. So I mean, that's a $600,000 savings alone in one fell swoop. That easily covers what we just talked about.
Yeah.
And so like those, to your point, we can, as we try and add context with GTA, again, in a year of a 0% COLA, there isn't too much to argue about, but when I get 8%'s a big number, and so just like GTA is a big number, and so adding the context, I get it. And just one other point of reference, we do have the recurring COLA meeting typically in November, just with the franchise and everything. We bumped it to December, so to your point, we can get your feedback normally in November, bring it back in December, so we're just a month behind, but retroactively we can do that in January.
So what's going to happen then? We put this on hold, or okay it? and
Yeah, it seems,
us the numbers?
It would seem that we would put it on hold till, to be voted on in January.
Make it
But,
retroactive to
but with that, the reason it's being put on hold is to get the actual financials as to how much does it really cost us as far as what the overall base salaries are we have, plus what's the 8.7%, what's that gonna do overall, and what does that have an effect on our budget? And then that can be discussed, but,
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
it's
I'm
not the-
obviously inclined to vote in favor of this,
Right.
and I don't want the messaging to the employees to be
Yeah.
otherwise.
I
It's
think
just,
we're
I
all
think,
100% on.
yeah, I just think that as a commission, it's kind of our duty to just have more information when we're making decisions that have some financial impact. I
Yeah, I
mean,
think
that kind of is the
I
job.
think the takeaway is we're comfortable with the number. We'd just like to see a little bit more support, you know, as to the cost,
Yeah.
and what the real effect is. We're not just, okay, 8.7% of what? So we'd like to know what that number actually is.
Yep.
And do that in January.
Do we know what the union increase was?
3 point.
So, yes, right, currently it's in the contract for 3.
So that's 3 whether we're at 0 or 3 whether we're at 6. So that was the compromise of the union side.
Correct.
How long is that locked in for? Well, the term of the contract, I guess.
Is through 2025.
I think we talked about last year, didn't we talk about like performance reviews?
Yeah.
So it's not
There's another
just,
set of those.
okay.
That's a separate,
Well, there was the COLA increase and then performance reviews, but then there was another kind of lock-in, which was you can't pay for a position that's more than what that position
with
would
the
get
market-
at
with
the
the
outside
market
market,
rate.
or less, I guess. So there were 3 components in a way. And when do we do the increases? When do you propose the increases for employees generally on the performance side? Is that in June?
So, that would be, we're in the middle of all the evaluation process now. So all of those take effect January 1 as part of the calendar year budget.
and that doesn't come to us. That's those are the managers that handle that. We do the COLA. Okay, so I think we're doing, on this item, on the item 5, which is annual SELCO cost of living adjustment, we'll defer this till January's meeting, and then it'll be basically what the salaries, what the actual dollar amount is that we're approving. That's the issue. We have no real objections to providing a COLA.
But will we see all 3 factors when we get those numbers? No.
Well, I think what Chris proposed back, again, was this 6 months ago or a year ago now? I don't remember. But
Year, I
that
think.
to kind of, we always reviewed all the employees and just the overall.
And then we did
per
away with that
employee.
last year.
Did away with it last year. You know, again, I wouldn't mind seeing, on average, what was the increase on the performance side. It's just information. I don't necessarily need to see what
I don't think we need to see
X
individually.
employee makes. I don't think it matters to me.
But I think we do need to know what the overall impact is going to be. Like, again, if we're looking for the COLA adjustment, what's the overall impact going to be to the budget?
Overall
Right.
salaries.
We want the executive summary, that's what we want.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure, I think,
Yeah.
so Tracy's working on, if you may recall, I guess this is somewhat of a question to see if this meets some of the information you're looking for. So we maintain an ongoing comp study for every position to make sure our, each position is competitive with respect to the market. And so we update that on a rolling basis throughout the year. And so to what's being discussed here, we have a summary page at the end, which doesn't have employee names, it just has the position with respect to the market range, which I believe we provided in 2021. She's wrapping up updating that, so that should be ready for a January meeting. So we can provide that in so you can see how the positions compare to
Good.
the market, and that way you know. And I guess that's just, now you take you could fact check this next month. But that's where, I think we've done a good job. I mean, I'm biased. I think we've done a good job of being competitive in that regard, and we still have room you know, like this wouldn't make us stick out like a sore thumb, like we're the highest paid group out there. It would keep us in, you know, you could argue median to average, but it's in that sweet spot. And so that's my concern is before we were a little too far to the other direction, in my opinion.
We were a little low.
We were a little low.
Yeah.
And so I think we've made significant strides to get us to, you know, right in the sweet spot, and this keeps us in that.
When you say we were low relative to the IOUs or the other munis?
Munis,
Oh, good. We've done that analysis.
yes.
Great.
Okay, good. Okay, the next item is review quarter 3 financials. The floor is yours, sir.
Let's see if we can get the technology working. Perfect. Good morning. So we're going to go over the financial update, the agenda. We'll hit the electric financials for Q3. We're going to do the cable financials for Q3. And then there is an NISC update. That's our new software. And we'll just go through that a little quickly. Starting with the electric financials for Q3, if we take a look at our income statement, our operating revenue is above plan about $800,000 and about 10% for quarter to date. For year to date, it's $2.3 million above plan and about 10% as well. When we take a look at our operating expenses, they are, from a quarter to date perspective, $1.4 million above plan, about 18%. And from a year to date, it's about $3 million above plan, 13%. When we jump down to the bottom here, we can see our net income from operations decreased about $600,000 to plan, or is $600,000 under plan, about 84% decrease. When we take a look at the year to date, it is about $750,000 below plan. And one thing to note, the percentage here is a little deceiving. The formula I use when you divide by a negative, it's going to increase it. I'm looking for a better formula, so it's not, it did increase from a negative perspective, but it's actually decreasing number. So don't let that throw you off. Taking a look at our overall return on plant, we're about a negative 4% right now. And if you notice, the majority of this increase is due to our purchase power went up, or is above plan for the year, about $3.7 million, or 30%. So we're going to take just a little more of an in-depth view of this. So if we look at this category, it's made up by these 4 accounts, okay? The biggest one here is the purchase power contracts. If we just take a look at purchase power overall from the budget perspective over the last 9 months, we can just kind of see here the difference from a monthly perspective, kind of what the difference between the purchase power actually was and what was budgeted. Jumping over, just looking at power contracts for, you know, that specific account, you can see we are about 4 million. Sorry, these numbers, I did them backwards. The budget is 4 million below what the monthly would be. Taking a look at our year-over-year comparison, our operating revenue is increased from last year about $750K, and that's 8%. Looking at year-to-date, year-over-year, it's a little under $1 million and about 4% increase. At the same time, our operating expenses increased quarter-to-date about 1.7, or 18%, and our year-to-date is increased $6 million, about 22%. This brings us to a net income from operations. We are under plan, or year-over-year, we are under about $1 million, and that's a significant decrease. significant decrease in last year, just based on the fact that we had such a high profit for the quarter. I'm sorry, I was just trying to understand something quickly. And then taking a look at the year-over-year comparison, we're down about 5 million. Once again, this percentage is a little deceiving just from the formula. Taking a look now at our balance sheet, our total current assets have decreased 5 million. I will jump in.
Can I just jump in before we jump to the balance sheet? The generation and purchase power expenses are obviously the biggest impact to all of this. And I'm just trying to think back, it's easy to put on the rearview mirror here, but I'm just trying to think back at the time when we were setting the budget. Did we make assumptions that the craziness in the energy markets was gonna subside a little and we shorted that number a little bit? How did we find ourselves so off, knowing that, it was crazy town, right, when we were setting this?
The way this kind of works, and this will get a lot better this year because we have a specialist now that does this stuff. But basically, MWEC provides us with certain forecasted numbers. The forecasted numbers they provided us with was in November. Those were the most up-to-date numbers we had at that time. Since November, there was a war, there was excess inflation, all of those type of things. So I believe I could be speaking a little incorrectly, but costs actually increased as well since that forecast.
So we were using
A year ago,
A
November.
year ago's number.
Yes.
year ago's numbers, so, yeah, didn't get nuts yet.
Now, do you also get caught up in that we have certain purchase power agreements that were already locked in for a certain amount of time, but we also end up having I don't know whether it's 20% short, where we buy on the spot market based on demand as well, right?
Yes.
And because of that really drives it up as well, because that's where you can't, you don't have a long-term contract guaranteeing you power at a certain rate. Now you're buying what the current rate is, and with shortages of fuel, gas, and whatever.
We're shrinking our spot market exposure this year, right?
We're trying
Meetings
to.
ago, Trying to, yeah.
Which I can't speak to details on this next statement because A, I don't remember them fully, but B, it might be a little confidential, but there were even emails flying back and forth between MWEC and different members about one purchase power cost just going up drastically and what could be done and all those type of things. So
Yeah.
there were definitely a lot of different unique things this year that we were seeing, and you could just see people, like it affected, and that one was such a large increase that it got the attention, and it got my attention because normally those emails are kind of noise because I was focused more on the conversion stuff, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of emails coming in on this. So it was that big of a jump.
But to your point, we didn't amend the budget after basically November, December of last year.
Feels like it's been going on longer than a year, that's what,
I
that.
know. I had to think
Until I
about
thought
it.
about it, I was like,
Seems
oh
like
yeah,
it's
it
a
really
long
was,
time,
yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
And the tough part is too, we're to a degree at the whim of MWEC. If they come out with a report in April, we could potentially do some sort of update at the.
We did, correct me if I'm misstating this, just on the non-power supply side, we did try and project out inflationary measures. So I do recall adding about 10% to our other distribution expense and capital categories just to target that. And again, to the transformer example, we've seen that surpassed. In other cases, to the COLA example, we've hit the mark. So so if you look at those other categories,
Yeah.
we're more better in line. It's just the power supply has been crazy.
No surprise.
So jumping over to the balance sheet, just taking a look at the total current assets, they are down about 5 million year over year, and I'll speak to that in a minute. The total non-current assets have increased about 12 million year over year, and total assets increased about 7 million. So just jumping into the current assets, if you take a look at our operating cash, it looks like there is a $6 million, where did it go type number. Taking an in-depth view, here's those financials. This is because mainly two big transfers that we did. We did a transfer in December last year. It's technically hits in January, but our new financials organize it nicely in December, of 2.5 million over to our depreciation fund. That's money we still have. It's just earmarked for capital assets. We also did in June, we had a $2.3 million transfer to MWEX working capital. One of the decisions we made as a group was that we were going to fund them money. After that, I made the decision, let's split that funding because I want to make sure we can kind of see how it goes, because if we give them too much money at once and we needed money for any reason, that's never a good thing. So we broke up that cost. I just did a quick little adjusted analysis here so you could see if you remove those numbers, you're at about 13.6 million. And then if you were just to do the same comparison, we're only about $1.4 million below. And that's also if you kind of look at where we are spending money on the purchase power side, that reflects that as well. Now jumping into the liabilities, total liabilities increased about 10 million year over year. Our earned surplus decreased about 3 million, and that brings our total liabilities and earnings surplus to about 7 million increase year over year. Now just taking a look at the cash flow statement. I know this is a little tough to see because it's small, but you can see we're, before we're at the 8.7 million for the operating cash. You can see down here, I can't show it because the transaction hit in December, but the increase can be seen in depreciation from operating fund. And if we take a look at the bottom numbers, they really only dropped from the beginning of the year to today about 3 million. 1.5 of that is about a little bit of that is the MWEC transfer to the working capital. You can see that there. It's not, I can't show it on this cash flow statement, but that's a chunk of that money there.
So I was going to ask you that on so the offset to the 3.5. So right, so you credit cash, and then where's the debit going?
For the
3.5, the MWEC transfer.
For the MWEC transfer, it ends up sitting in our prepaids account.
Okay.
And it's 2.3 right now that we've done, and I think we just did the other. I think it was 2.1 or 2.3 is in like the last month or two. We just moved it over. So we'll see that in the Q4 financials.
And these were done in December, you said, of last year?
For the transfer depreciation was done in December. The MWEC was done in June.
Okay.
So one other liabilities question. What was the cause for the reduction in the OPEB obligate payment for the year?
So
It never usually seems to go down anywhere.
Well, actually, we're pretty well paid off.
that is just the financial numbers we get from the actuary. I don't have a great answer for why they give us what they give us, but they just kind of hand us what those numbers are.
Not complaining.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
And then
And
pretty well funded, so, I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
I believe even by some assessments, we were overfunded.
That's awesome.
Which is, yeah,
Okay.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So now jumping into the Q3 cable financials, taking a look at the income statement from a budget to actuals perspective for the quarter, we are above plan about 80,000 or 1%. Year to date, we're above plan about 400,000 and about 3%. Taking a look at operating expenses, they are above plan from a quarter to date perspective of about 700,000 or 17%. Year to date, they're above plan about $1 million or 8%. Jumping down to net income from operations, we are below plan about 600K or 46%, and we are, from a year-to-date perspective, below plan 600 or 16%. Now, taking a look at this, there's one number that kind of jumps out, and it's the distribution expenses. They increased 148,000, or 148%. Taking a look at the in-depth view, this is basically because of our new system. It's a methodology change. So our serialized devices, things like cable boxes, modems, ONTs, historically, those have been part of our inventory, which makes them part of our asset base. In the new system, they are now considered exempt inventory. What that means is we have a quantity for them, but the dollar amount is either capitalized or expensed immediately. There's a whole reason behind this for how these devices transfer out of a warehouse and have to go back to the warehouse. And if we were to do that, it would actually put them back into inventory after they've either been expensed or capitalized, and we don't want to do that. So we took a look at our inventory, and basically anything that's a cable box or a modem in the next year or so, as we move to fiber, as we move over to Minerva, will be ripped out, and those things are going to be disposed of. Most of them have aged out, and really, from a fixed asset perspective, anything that's there, they're most likely fully depreciated. From the ONT, which for anybody that doesn't know what an ONT is, because I did not, it is a modem for fiber. That was something I learned a couple months ago. But for those type of things, the dollar threshold for those is so low, it may not make sense to capitalize them going forward. So unless something, and I say may not, unless something changes, we're looking at, devices, kind of a threshold of $1,000. A lot of these devices cost like $100 to $200. The new cable boxes are like $50. They're so low, it almost makes more sense to expense them. So what we did was we expensed $437,000, and basically, the legacy, we know they're going away. Fiber, it's below our capital threshold. So just taking a look at some adjusted numbers quickly, had we not had this, decision, we would have only been below plan about 13%, and that is up from negative 46%. So we're much closer there to our numbers than it looks. Jumping into the year over year for the income statement, the total operating revenue increased about $170,000 or 3%, and year to date it increased about $340,000 or 2%. Operating expenses increased as well, about 686% or 17% increase over the quarter, and year to date they are up about $790,000 or 6%. Taking a look at our net income from operations, we are year over year below about 40% or about $500,000 for the quarter, and that kind of tracks similar for year over year. We're about $420,000 below or negative 12%. Jumping over to the cable balance sheet, our total current assets increased year over year about $1 million. Our non-current assets increased about $2.8 million, bringing our total assets to an increase of $3.9 million. Taking a look at our liabilities, our current liabilities decreased about $86K year over year, and our total long-term liabilities also decreased about $280K. That brings our total liabilities down year over year about $370,000. My quick assumption, I didn't have a chance to look at this, but this is us paying off certain items from a bond perspective, but then we also have, because we're paying down certain bond money is the best way to put that, I guess.
And those bonds, is that for the fiber?
I believe some of that is for the fiber. I just got to make sure I don't confuse electric and cable. I got a lot of numbers in my head right now. Because I believe we're starting to slowly pay down.
Yeah, that's the only bond the cable.
The service for the bond.
Okay.
So the earned surplus year over year increased about 4 million, and you're looking at a total from total liabilities and earned surplus an increase of a little under 4 million. Jumping down to our cash flow, you can see we have a relatively stable cash flow for our operating fund. You can see we're slowly chipping away at our bond fund, which is good because we have to spend that money in a certain time period. And if you look, we're pretty stable in our total funds available. Any questions?
Was the decision to expense the lower cost items after the audit?
Yes.
Okay, because if it wasn't something that we were planning for when we established the budget, then.
Oh, yes,
right?
no, 100%. It was not budgeted because we didn't know. We didn't fully know the functionality of the new system and how that would work. In theory, we didn't have to take this until next year. But my thought process was, why not get everything in line and ready for the second half of the system implementation? And then we talked to our auditors, and they were the ones that kind of advised, that stuff's being disposed of. You might as well, expense it. And the new stuff, it seems like it's a low dollar amount.
Okay. Again, just want to know why we're like
Yeah.
not
No,
budgeting accurately.
Oh, yes, yeah. No, and there will be a couple of different restatements based on certain methodology changes that we made for the new system coming in, and just to kind of make stuff easier in the all-in-all type of thing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the finances? There's no,
I got my one update.
yep, we want to do one, okay?
Yeah.
So the quick update from NIC perspective, we went live October 17th. We've done 185 work orders, 70 new POs, and converted 61 old ones from our old system. We've processed 4 payrolls now, processed about 780 invoices entered and paid, and we've received 360 inventory items. Some of the challenges we faced is just updating historical processes and practices. We had to convert the how we did our inventory, so from FIFO to weighted average, which, as I just mentioned, that will require a statement of our financials for next year. Some of the complexity around our paid time off rules were very challenging, and we're still trying to figure out the best way going forward to, if we want to, because some of the things we've learned now, if we want to accrue for our expenses because we provide like something like vacation time all up front, and then just figuring out how to pass all of our data to the town. Some key takeaways: all of our financial processes are now run in iView. We definitely had some hiccups like you would in anything, but we have had no catastrophes thus far. We're still building and updating a lot of processes. We have a lot of people still learning and getting comfortable with our system, and it's still going to be a long road ahead until we get there. The second half of the system, it's the road we're looking down. The second half of the system will be coming next May if everything goes on time, which I believe it should. And then we'll get little modules and pieces of stuff after that for electrical that'll help. But that was just a quick little summary.
Real quick.
I just want to say thank you very much for all the work you've put into this, and you say you're short of help also. Only your head hasn't blown up.
Oh, you're welcome, and I appreciate the feedback.
Real quick, is there any movement to incorporate one bill for the town for electric, cable, and water, sewer,
So
one-stop shopping?
I came from a municipal where we tried to bill for water. It does not work. Electricity and water, you get electrocuted. But basically, the town they are cash basis, they're fund accounting, and their fiscal year. We are accrual basis, we are FERC accounting, and we are calendar year.
Okay.
Those 3 things make it very, very challenging, because they actually just approached me last week to ask about some of that, and I'm all about wins. To something Mike said, I like lean processing, figuring all that stuff out, and we will have some examples of how we've saved time. We're trying to figure out how to monetize that. But from that perspective, I don't think it'll go well.
Okay.
Even from a customer service perspective, when someone calls up to complain about their bills, who handles it?
Yeah.
You know, so unless we became SWELCO, you know, that's where you got to take water fully on and have a third division.
Swelco.
Thank you very much.
Not a bad name.
Okay. Yeah, hold on to that, you never know.
I just want to also repeat, the effort, obviously, your presentation's great, and the materials are terrific, and I recognize what you went through on that conversion, but how important that was, so thanks for the foresight and the effort.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay,
Just one like high level question. Any, I've been going through that, seeing what, the yearly trends. Obviously, we got the high, the crazy energy prices on the electricity side. Any concerns going into the next calendar year? Like anything that you're just staring at the ceiling at?
So the only concerns I have is I'm just behind right now, so I haven't even gotten a chance to look at budgeting yet. So that's one of the things me and Chris are figuring out now is, what is next year's budget going to look like? How's that all going to play out? And I haven't gotten to see some of those forecasting type stuff. I'm more confident on the electric forecasting this year because we have somebody that understands that stuff much better than myself now in-house. The cable forecasting is something I think is going to be a very big challenge because our migration to Minerva is imminent, and we have to have a plan for that. It's how do we know how many people in what areas are we going to be able to convert at what times yet? And for some of it, we're not going to be able to plan 100% how that goes. Like ideal world, you want to say, hey, here's the rollout strategy. It's hitting these groups, these times. This is where the change is going to be. This person's going to do this, and this is how the revenue is going to get affected. It's going to be a lot more guessing and hoping it's correct from a timing perspective, because even this year we were hoping to have Minerva in much earlier, and it hit a lot later. It's just a lot of those unknown factors for things.
Could I just add an ad hoc expression of gratitude to that question? Is I just appreciate the flexibility with our timing. As we talk about all these commodities, time is our most precious commodity, in my opinion. So I just appreciate we've been, to Jim's point, we've been off by a month or so on some of these things. And so I just wanted to say I appreciate your flexibility with respect to when we're getting these reports out. We haven't hit steady state yet. I guess, and the other one with Maria, to your point about budgeting accurately, that's probably my biggest, I wouldn't concern is too strong of a word, but this process has us literally evaluating the way we've done everything. And so maybe we'd put, for 20, I don't know, longer generations, we've put something in this bucket, and through NISC, what I like about it is NISC is the platform for the majority, if not almost all, of the cooperative utilities across the country, which has the rural utility standard for a lot of things. So we're now being able to say, is this industry standard? Is it not? Which then makes it more difficult to come up with an actual budgetary number in the moment. But over time, that will help us be standardized.
And the goal for next year is once we have a lot of numbers in the system, there's even stuff where we could say, what does a 4% increase to all areas look like? How does that look? And then we can use that to baseline certain numbers to say, okay, do things fit in this? How does this work? So the opportunities will never end with this. And one thing I like about this company, and we did this where I worked previously, was every couple years you get you sign up with them and you do a best practice review, and they come and they show you, hey, you guys aren't using this, this, and this. Because one of the biggest challenges, and I say this all the time to my team, learning is multi-steps. So first it's just, what do I do? And you just gotta step 1, step 2, step 3, but then afterwards you go back and you're like, okay, now I kind of understand what I'm doing, and you almost watch the same training again and you pick up all the tricks, the tips, the things to streamline, to figure out how to do things more efficiently. So that's where I have this long road ahead. 2023 is going to be a lot better than 2022, but 2023 is going to be a lot of process improvement, a lot of changing of things, and then 2024 is going to be a lot cleaner. But even then, that's where we'll figure out the little minutiae things where it's like, hey, we want to do this better, we want to do that better. you know. And the end-all, be-all goal is to have data at our fingertips. So if we want to all of a sudden pull a number for something for a meeting like this, we can pull that number. Someone like Joelle and Ralph have to make decisions for their areas of the company. They have reporting that's helping them. You know.
Oh, it's great. Kudos to you guys for taking it on. It's a huge undertaking. I think Mike raised the point earlier of finding efficiencies. This seems like one of the best ways to do that, right?
I feel bad he left. The quickest one I can tell you is our refund process takes 2 employees 3 days to do. We just fixed one half of it where the one employee takes 1 day, one employee takes 2 days. The one employee person, they're down to about half a day. The other person still has their 2 days. Once we get the other half of the system in, that whole process should be about 3 hours.
Nice.
At most. Most of that is reviewing to make sure these are the people. Today, it's trying to figure out how to get the information out of the system. You get it in a PDF. Now you're hand keying in Excel. Now you're taking that hand keyed in Excel. You're putting it in one system. You were putting it into another system after that. You were re-entering it. Just for me to approve those, it was taking me like an hour. So now it'll just be we run something, we pick all these people, we submit it, it gets approved, it goes into AP, AP runs a process, it passes to the town, checks are cut.
That's great.
Man, that's what we're looking for. And certain people that, always are like, oh, well, job security, I won't have anything to do. Oh, I will find stuff for people. There is so many things that when you spend time doing too much manual stuff, you don't get to do the value add, and that's what we want to start doing.
Well, great.
We'll have to play that part back.
Yes.
Yeah. Mike can watch it at home.
Send it like YouTube link.
The first meeting I was at, he asked, how do we measure those efficiencies? And in the back of my mind, I've been like, okay, how are we going to show that in some sort of report one day for him?
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
The next exciting item on the agenda, and probably the most important for today, is the generation and transmission adjustment, where we have to review and consider approval for said item. And Mr. Roy, again, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. So, obviously, this is not the most fun one to present in light of everything, but we did try and order the agenda intentionally just to kind of lay the groundwork culminating in this with Jim's presentation on the financials, so folks viewing this at home or otherwise could kind of get a sense for where we're heading into this. So the punchline is I don't mind the friendly jabs. I can take the long road to get to the answer. This is right up at the top. We're looking to increase the generation and transmission adjustment for all rate classes from the current level at 2 cents to 5 1/4 cents. So that is obviously and certainly by SELCO standards a substantial increase. Just in time, I know you'd met Becca, but she came in, and this is the analysis she's been doing for a long time.
You trying to blame Becca for this?
Yes, I am. In a nice way. Yep, in a nice way. But she went through all of our information with a fine-tooth comb, and so this is based on a very in-depth analysis and several conversations about what our approach would be. So long story, continue to be long, I guess, is costs are incredibly high. When we did the 2 cent adjustments back in July, so when we did our first July rate adjustments, those were based on June information, and to Matt's question before, so every step of the way in 2022, there's just one new log in the road in terms of cost increases. So this now incorporates, obviously, the gas shortages, the real-time market information. The closer we get to January and February, which is our most constrained area of the year, the forecasts become more accurate. And we have the Mystic RMR. If you recall, a couple of months ago, I sent an email around where there's additional costs with retaining the Mystic generating stations. All that's thrown into here. And additionally, looking at the forecast over into next year, a year from now. And so factoring all that in, that's where we get into this analysis and this calculation. And so the high level point, at least in my mind, is these costs are generally not going away magically next year. So one of the biggest changes is we shortened the cost recovery window to next fall to better prepare ourselves. So before we had about over a year recovery, hoping that some of these costs would stabilize and we could, make up headway going into, next season. That's not looking like it's going to materialize. The Mystic RMR is a multi-year deal. So you can see that, the costs are increasing and there isn't much relief in sight. So this 5.25 cents is intended to cover the shortfall that we just reported on for 2022, as well as the forecasted cost increases into 2023. So we did provide some tables for reference that you can just see, hopefully that in case anyone thinks we're making this up, we're not. It's displayed in several charts here just to give a sense for the historical highs here. If you look at the Mass Hub all hours annual average LMP, back in 2019 at 3 cents, and we're projecting 11 cents in 2023. It's staggering. So, not to continue on this, we looked at two different scenarios just to compare cost implications in this situation. Scenario one is if we sustained our 2 cents. You can just see here the punchline is we'd be $6 million short, which is a substantial amount, versus what we're proposing here, the 5.25 cents effective February 1st. And I apologize if I didn't mention it before, but we were on the semi-annual review of GTA. We are looking more formally quarterly, so we'd be coming back again in March. At least we can report on what's going on. But that's where you see this February 1 implementation period is out of our normal historical standards because given these unprecedented times, we're taking a more active approach. So we're looking at a quarterly
So if you looked at it in March, then if there were another rate increase,
increase, we'll cross maybe the rate decrease.
Yeah,
just to say,
maybe the
but
other way, right.
it's we can at least see how we're doing with respect to forecasts and who's invading who at that time and whatnot. So right here, you see 8,000. That's basically spot on. That variability would make that noise. So that's what we're proposing is to hit this projection right on the money with the 5.25 cents. And you can see, again, everyone's approaching this a little bit differently. We had the 2 cents, we're going to 5 cents, and hopefully that's where we stabilize through 2023. Others have already gone right to 6. They went from 0 to 6. So we're trying this ramped approach that takes a little bit more time. And because of that, it's a lot harder to report how we compare to everyone because everyone's on this mixed schedule. We report on the big story right now. We're literally 1/3 the price of National Grid. Val sent around a nice Facebook post from the weekend that folks were highlighting that they could see it on their bills. It's an easy statistic that if they have one family member that lives out of town and one that lives in town, you compare bills and you see we're 1/3. This closes that gap a little bit, but you can see in that chart on, I'm not sure what page this is, but a monthly bill cost comparison at 750 kilowatt hours. You can just see, it bumps us up a few ticks, but again, there are folks making that adjustment in January. There's some making it in February. So that's, Rick did some analysis to go to publicly available websites and commission meeting minutes to pull these MLPs for reference.
Well, I think the important comment is right where it says customer impacts, or where we say that with this rate, that the comparison would be that somebody paying for an average household of 750 kilowatts, kilowatt hours per month, that it would be it'd be $24 more in the month of based on their electric bill. And what you had in this month,
Right.
in February, it would go up about $24 based on the average household. And that's absolutely being driven by the
Nothing
cost
we can do
of
about it.
power and the recovery of costs that we've had to pay for power up till this point.
I think a lot of this is, to that point, just gonna come down to messaging, right? It's the reality of, I mean, but the graph showing the comparisons, I think, tells the
Yeah,
story of
yeah.
still the value of SELCO, right? Tremendous value. Just a couple of quick questions. The storyline, I think, is gonna be important, right? To just explain to folks why. I think, no one is shocked that things cost more right now, right? Everything's costing
See
more.
it every
but,
day.
we just haven't seen it yet. You read the stories about Eversource in New Hampshire doubling and National Grid, just crazy, crazy stories, but we haven't seen it. I think in part of telling the story, I think it would be important to communicate to customers to the why. But also, I think there's going to be a next layer of questions that come, certainly probably your way, of energy profile, acceleration through the energy transition. We're not doing it fast enough to buffer this. The complexities of those answers of, these things takes time. You could spend your whole day explaining all that to folks. But I think just as a baseline for even our understanding, could you refresh our memory as to the energy mix that we have in town? Because a lot of this is obviously driven by natural gas prices and the region's dependency on natural gas in this energy transition. And I will also say 23% of National Grid, Eversource, and Unitil charges is to service the incentives for renewables and energy efficiency, where we are at a faster, probably transition, I would say certainly for renewables in our portfolio versus others, but our impact is far less than theirs. So all this stuff kind of all comes together when people are, I think with things that you're going to hear, and I think it's really important for folks to understand that.
I think that's a great point. Okay, so let's see if I can answer.
Yeah, sorry, I just threw a lot.
No,
of
that's all right.
variables in there.
So,
Yes, so.
all right. So one of the things we did, leading into this, and this goes back to mention it if folks are interested on the website, we maintain our power supply policy for reference. So leading into this, our portfolio, we basically standardize on a 20% open position. And again, I know most folks know this already. So 80%, we try and hedge our portfolio to 80%. That leaves 20% open. Basically, what that does is it allows for the variability in load because we don't want to necessarily be long. That being said, leading into that, so that 20% is grid mix. Grid mix, to your point, is predominantly gas, so that's going to be the most susceptible to the cost fluctuations. In addition, and we've been slowly chipping away at this over the last couple of years, in addition to that, we maintained another 30-odd% of grid mix that was hedged. So it wasn't attributable to any individual project, but through MWIC, I dubbed it, I don't know if others did, but I dubbed it the MWIC hedge. So that was a grid mix that wasn't spot market, but otherwise it was secured for a short-term contract. So that one, based on the timing of that contract expiring, basically at the worst possible time exposed us to an additional 20-ish%, just the way the math didn't quite work out there, but additional 20%. So going into this, we are 64% hedged because of that natural gas component. And so what we did is we did a short-term hedge again based on October's prices. It had a small dip, so I had asked them to hedge us to 85% So at least when we come to the GTA analysis, we have known financial figures, and it hedges us against prices skyrocketing in January for any particular reason. You know, you could have any blip now on the system would cause a major price spike. So we're hedged to 85% as the punchline. All of that is natural gas, and to your point, as we try and pursue new contracts to take that place, it's been especially difficult entering the 2021 era, 2020 pandemic era to secure those hedges. But I think I kind of rambled a little bit there, but we are hedged, and when we're pursuing new contracts.
No,
to-
I was
Well, I
reading-
think,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was reading that the ships, American ships can't go from one port
So-
to another port. Are they gonna do something about that politically and
Oh.
change that law so we can get this natural gas barge or something?
So that's another good, okay, so that's also trying to lock this in. That's the Jones Act, 1924. The Jones Act was enacted where ships going from one U.S. port to another had to be a U.S. manufactured ship with a U.S. crew,
Right.
and I believe maybe even U.S. commodity. I might be wrong on that last point. And so right now, the shipping industry has been vehemently against any type of waivers to that. And so we have to get all of our liquefied natural gas from overseas. And,
Ridiculous?
Maddening.
And yet 12% of our natural gas gets shipped overseas.
Right,
And
yeah,
then-
exactly.
and then
It's
you have to
insane.
ship
And we
it.
can't build a new
And the
pipeline
ships
coming in,
pass
so
each
we can't
other.
even get American.
Well, you know, I was looking at the fuel mix on the, I mean, just, Matt, right now, I mean, 51% of all the power in New England is being provided by natural gas.
Yep.
27% by nuclear, okay, 11 by hydro, 11 by renewables, which includes burning trash.
Yeah, and biomass.
Yeah, okay, and so, I mean, that's, less than, and that's, of course, almost no coal or oil, but bottom line is, like we're talking about, natural gas has really been the driver on that.
Yep.
But anyways, another thing that's going to be coming down the pike strategically rather than just tactically, because, short term here is that even this morning, the incoming governor has announced that she's starting a new climate cabinet member. And Ms. Higgins, I guess, has been announced. She's coming from the EPA.
What's up?
That's going to put another layer of probably structure and potentially cost as we look at other plants that are running or not going to be able to run as the new administration comes into effect. So it'll be interesting to see what happens down the road on that one too.
It is.
Yeah.
I got a lot to say there, but.
Just
He's not gonna say it publicly.
So anyways, with that said, okay.
Anyway.
So, we've got a proposed GTA increase.
Yeah, gotta do it.
It's in the presentation is such that the proposal is to increase the GTA for all rate classes from 0.02 or 2 cents per kilowatt hour to 5 or 5.25 cents per kilowatt hour starting February the 1st, okay, of 2023.
Yes.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Is it-
So be it.
Could I just ask one quick follow-up? What percent of the bill today, today's, maybe not tomorrow's, but what percent of the bill does the GTA compromise? Or not compromise?
Let's see, that would be today? I'm sorry. You said,
Today or with the new adjusted rate? Like, so when we have a customer's bill,
yep.
those line items, what percentage does it make up of the total bill?
That's a good question. So let's see, the variable charges now go to just under 18 cents. And so obviously it's based on consumption. I'll try, I don't have the math here in front of me. So our customer charge, so if you're paying a bill of 134, I mean, the variable charges are the vast majority. of the GTA specifically, I'm not sure I'd actually want to crunch that number.
Yeah.
But the-
So
the
are you
vari-
saying 18 cents? So what's 5%, 5 cents out of 18
18.
cents is, well, that's gonna go up. If it's 18, then is it gonna go up to 23?
No, the 18
It'll stay-
incorporates the recommendation.
Okay, so that's 30%, well, 29%.
Right.
So 29% of the 18% is,
Yeah.
so, or,
Under the new, with the
the
new,
charge.
yeah.
Right,
Because again, it wasn't long ago, it was zero,
yeah, I know,
or credit.
right.
So,
Get a credit, right.
Yeah, we were given credit in it.
Yeah.
Now we gotta recoup because because the cost has gone up faster than we could bill.
So when will notices go out?
immediately, Rick will do it.
December, it'll be January 1.
Okay.
For all notices to go out.
In what form? Just like a letter?
There'll be an on-bill message, to be in the newsletter, there'll be, probably have an insert as well.
And stating the obvious, there's gonna be a strong message
Yeah,
as to
I
the
mean,
why.
exactly.
Yes.
The newsletter will have an entire article based on it, so
Yeah.
we'll have that front and center for everyone.
Shouldn't be much of a surprise, I mean, it's in the news every single day.
Right, right.
Oh, there'll still be complaints.
There will be a
Oh,
lot
there'll
of
be
complaints.
complaints.
though.
Still, but, you know, it's time, but you have to make people aware of it.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be the last time, unfortunately. So, okay. Well, with that, we have general manager's highlights.
All right, let me grab that. Okay. So, I'll try and be more concise than I perhaps usually am. But I tried to include some legislative bits out of the gate here, just to stay in theme with everything we've talked about at this meeting. I'm sure folks have seen the news, and I know folks that may have been following this for a long time or remain skeptical, but I still find it interesting, is the fusion technology breakthrough. You know, so perhaps fusion one day will become a thing, and these conversations will be a lot different. But I just wanted to call attention to that article in case you hadn't seen it. But just around some of these things, so to your question, the second one is about the Jones Act. So should anyone want more information, the Globe did an article about the Jones Act there, and just how that impacts our energy situation up here and the shortage of gas, given a predominantly natural gas generating fleet. And just a couple others I just wanted to call attention to. Another key, obviously not for today thing, but you know, we've talked about various transmission projects and their impact to energy prices in Massachusetts and in particular SELCO. So I just threw in a couple here about some early signs of potential transmission projects down the road, where you see one in Maine, a new version of the Northern Pass project. Again, these are this would provide access to hydro. So again, helping
This is Quebec Hydro, right? Bringing
Quebec Hydro in Canada. Some of this is to support wind. The main one is a King Pine Wind Farm. Would be the largest onshore project in the eastern part of the country. And then just for comparison,
No, I was just gonna say.
Real quick, is
my-
Cape Wind shut down again?
well, Cape Wind is, I
Yeah.
put the nail in that coffin.
yeah.
But Vineyard Wind and all the others are
Good.
off and running. But I'm working on that LS Power
Oh.
project. My company is. I'm not really too involved. And then we're actually working for another fusion group out of MIT. The guy I work with that's really working on that project was telling me the other day that they were very excited to see this different project from the national labs, but they're all working towards the same thing. There's across the globe, there's probably 30 different projects for fusion going on right now, and Bob, you probably know a lot about this, but the one in a group out of MIT, they invented a new superconductor that allows them, they're going to surpass, they're modeling and they're building a prototype up in Devons right now. And when they do, and they use that superconductor, they're going to be able to outdo this net energy. Like, so it's finally, like, this is, I mean, people like read it, it's like, oh, it's like, this is such a remarkably huge thing in the world of energy to have gone over net positive. I mean, it'll change the world if this actually ever
Good
comes
thing,
to
yeah.
commercialization. Anyway, sorry.
No,
I'm super excited about it. I think it's, yeah.
I'm trying to not ramble. I would talk about this all day.
Yeah.
But
I love all these topics.
so, and then I had to throw in just again some context for pricing, not so much the headline itself or the 10% rate decrease up in New Hampshire, but more the context of that decrease is coming on something that's a massive increase. So that I had to just throw that in because of everything we just talked about. But that's a 40% higher rate up in New Hampshire. Market volatility, again, just to add support. I pulled a particular paragraph of that article just to show a quick example where you see, Connecticut rates went from 12 cents per kWh to 24. Western Mass went from 15 to 22, and Eastern Mass went from 17 to 25 and a half. So it's just, I mean, we're right in, it's crazy.
And what are we going to, 18?
Yes. So we're 18 in that mix. That more of the same. I'll skip over that. I put in one here for EV charging infrastructure requires local government collaboration to get federal funding. Just a paragraph on that because sometimes it comes up from time to time about the role that your traditional municipal departments play. And so this one speaks directly to permitting, building codes, parking policies, and zoning. So there's a synergy here between not just utility rebates and incentives and the DSM programming we offer, but also your traditional municipal endeavors to support that.
Do we see any efforts within the town of private companies coming in to talk with us about they want to put charging stations in around the town? Does Pat follow that, or Pat Collins, or does he? I'm sorry.
So we're relatively tuned in about that, but often, and I don't know how. I mean, we have folks all out in all areas of town, but a lot of folks can just do that. I mean, if it's behind their meter, you'll find them pop up in a parking lot in a business plaza.
Okay.
But for the most part, they're slowly materializing.
Okay.
But in terms of taking the next step and incentivizing or facilitating their deployment, I think is where we're trying to head.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm sorry, I just can't help myself, but to your point about talking about COLAs and GTAs and all that stuff. To your point, we're at least I try and be well aware of what the public wants, and so this article propped up in my news feed here, profits versus reinvestment. So you see this. So a look at EverSource, United Illuminating, their financials ahead of the rate hikes, and so this is back to the point about messaging. We're very, very different. I mean, you can see right here the punchline, is everything that folks pay into a municipal utility go directly back into the community. We don't even have a bonus program.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not part of this where, we have EverSource Gas, right? The EverSource Gas CEO, both electric and gas, is $14.6 million a year in pay. We're
You're not leaving us, are you?
No, no, but I mean, that's just out of perspective. We don't have hearing, now EverSource isn't here doing gas hearings. Verizon's not here, so these are just perspective as we monitor the Facebook posts, and maybe folks view this meeting. They can see the models very, very different. And when we talk about COLAs, that, there's another statistic that the American Public Power Association monitors that for, I believe, if I'm citing this correctly, $1 of every salary paid to an MLP employee goes, $1 in $5 goes directly back into the economy, whereas you take like a National Grid, does all of their engineering for Rhode Island out of Waltham. You know, you're 2 states away, 1 state. But, so that's where I just throw that in and call attention to it again, because the messaging and the context with all of these changes, I think, matters almost more than ever, because we're doing it the right way. So that,
Well,
sorry.
you know, another thing that, as far as just generally what's going on in the market, is that California has most recently in the past week or two come out and they're gonna cut the price they're going to pay for home solar generated power. They're not gonna pay,
really?
yeah, so what people were doing very well, you know, the incentive to put solar on your roof was such, but it's gonna be, I don't know what the percentage the cut is, but it's a significant one. So your recovery for putting solar in is gonna be stretched out, which will, you know, but anyways, bottom line is that they're heading that way, that, you know,
Yep.
the incentives to potentially go green are being brought back a little bit.
And I'm sorry for one more plug. You know, we have the Next Zero program that Patrick and Becca now maintain. And I know I'm biased, so, you know, take this as pride. I think we're ahead of the curve, right? Mass Save has come under fire for some, programs that need modernization, or to our point about efficiency, might not necessarily be efficiently deployed. But at the same time, and I mean, some might know, but back to our Next Zero program, all those programs are discussed here. You know, and we can directly tailor them to what the community needs. The governing body is right here. I'm not sure who makes those decisions for Mass Save. So a lot of those things with respect to the rates that people are paying in Shrewsbury, you can trace that dollar you spent directly back to where it goes. So anyway, that's my little soapbox, I guess. But it goes with the whole support of your ratepayer dollar goes a long way in our model here. Okay, shifting gears from the soapbox. So bringing folks in to our elite team of highly capable individuals. So we have some new hires. Again, you know, recruiting is harder than it has been, but we're very fortunate for some of the new additions, a couple of which are here. But we have Becca, we have Derek, our new double E, who's here. And then, let's see, we have James, Forbes. I don't think I see anyone else here, but Nick, Elaine's out front. You could go say hi to Elaine, our new CSR. And Raul floats around from IT. So we're very fortunate on that regard. We have hopefully a couple more to report next month. And then again, in our effort to continue to develop our talent pool, Ashley has been around for a few years now. So she is the credit and collections manager back to the NISC program, you know, and evaluating our processes. She has taken on that role, and to provide backup, we had a number of single contingency roles where if our collections person or a billing person was out, the whole process was shut down. So now we have an ability to have
Continuation,
yeah,
continuity.
Continuity, thank you. So that, I know we're over time here. Just our standard report on the projects we've been working on the electric side. Broadband, you know, given our other high-profile project being fiber, we continue to chip away at that. We've made substantial progress, I think, as we talked about last meeting as well. We've had a couple of nodes that we've been able to fully convert over to fiber. Minerva is commercially available. We're working through a little bit of a video on demand integration for HBO. Discovery's up and running. So that's a couple of the technical items that we're still working through. SELCO Stream is in there. Yep. Oh yes, TiVo services. So we talked about. So just one other, I guess, technical element that's worth noting is the encryption protocols for how we deliver the signal, the TV signal, will be discontinued in 2024. So what we're now doing is trying to migrate folks away from the TiVo boxes and other items that use that encryption signal, so we can get those folks onto the Minerva platform 18 months from now, roughly.
So TiVo's gonna be around for another 18 months?
So for new subscribers as of January 1, so you have it, and those boxes are not reliable. But if you're calling in today to subscribe to a TiVo service, we're going to steer you to Minerva.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And then we'll work on converting folks that already have it over that time period. We just don't want to add to the problem.
What's the difference in cost?
It's cheaper
Yeah,
now,
I was going to say it's,
because there's no box rentals for
Yeah.
the consumer.
Okay, so if I'm a cable subscriber that has TiVo boxes in my home, and I find out that we got this Minerva thing, can I actually have our folks come and shift me over so I save lots of money?
when we'd say thank you.
Yeah. And you'd say thank you, because you wouldn't have to worry about the boxes.
I'm that
They want to
person.
do that. They'll want to do that after
have
the
3 TiVo
electric
boxes.
increase.
Yeah, when they get the electric increase, that way I can at least break even.
Yeah.
The challenge, I mean, I didn't want to mention it, but remember, for some of you that were here in 2011, remember when we did the DTAs?
Mhm.
Yeah.
The analog channels were going away, so we're gonna be facing something similar in 2024, where the technology that we're using for digital video is going away. So that's kind of why we need to start transitioning everything
Yeah.
to over-the-top or internet streaming.
Great.
And this is what makes that revenue forecasting more difficult, because there's
Sure.
a timeline. I didn't want to let the cat
Yeah,
out the
all of a sudden, there's a big
Yeah.
rush here, people gonna dumping their TiVo boxes out in the,
So, yep, so that I just wanted to call attention to that as, one more item that we're actively addressing. Yeah, I guess
that
the report's in there, unless there's any other questions. We have, I guess, not to miss some of our accolades. We've been designated as this smart energy provider. I can't believe I almost forgot that. So that's another great thing. The Excellence in Public Power Communications Award was another one that we received for the 2021 Sustainability Report. Patrick's been super busy, so you can see that there.
Can we slap those things right above the message about the rate increase?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's we've talked about. Our marketing folks are very, very busy trying to do that. But the same thing. Yuletide, you probably saw us there. So, with all the other stuff, I think we've been recognized as doing some
yeah,
good things.
got a lot of things going on. You share the warmth, I guess there's a lot of effort to, people want to help donate money to help people, especially with as we see the price of electricity slant, and all fuel costs going up, that we have the ability to help the people out that use electric heat through SELCO.
People are then donating to Share the Warmth, so it's been great. We are also doing the Shrewsbury hats, the Shrewsbury scarves, and the ornaments this year.
Yep.
That just went out on the school email, and I am getting orders constantly, so
Great.
we're helping out with the Share the Warmth program this
Yeah.
year.
And we want to make sure people apply to it.
Yeah,
We want to make sure if there's anybody out there who needs this, please apply, because we've noticed numbers are kind of steady and whatnot, where we're assuming they should be increasing.
So how would somebody apply?
You can go to our website, so southbow.shrewsburyma/STW will get you to the Share the Warmth page with all the information on how to apply. You're going to
Yep.
go to Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services, Council on Aging.
Can they come in directly here to SELCO and apply if they're analog people in a digital world?
They have to go through the outside.
Okay, so they can go through the Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services,
And
or,
they send it to us, and then we just distribute the money.
and that gets distributed, what, in March or something? No, I don't think we.
Yeah, it's sometime after the winter season.
Okay.
I just
They should
will
apply.
say, it
Oh,
says
good.
applications are available at the SYFS, St. Anne's, First Congregational Church, St. Mary's, and the Council on Aging.
Great,
Senior Center.
okay,
Good.
Yeah, all the information is on that page.
good.
Okay.
And soon to come out will be the SELCO scholarships, do we be,
Yeah,
so we'll start that in January?
Beginning of the year, you will see the SELCO scholarships will be announced, and there will be, I think it's still gonna be 3, and Nesson's partnering with us on that.
Well, that's great, because those three are $1,000, I think, apiece. And and that is another hat, I sit on the Shrewsbury Scholarship Committee, and we just published our new forms as well for those, and they're all due in March, much like the ones for SELCO will be as well. So I just want to put that plug in for the parents and for the kids that are, any graduating senior that's a Shrewsbury resident that attends any school, not just Shrewsbury High School, is eligible for both the SELCO and the Shrewsbury Scholarship. So apply early and often.
Send in one application.
Yeah.
AKA.
I just had a, sorry,
No, please.
share the warmth question. With, you never know, but if there was a perfect storm this year of like a polar vortex with this ridiculously high energy cost, I think we could see things that we've never seen before, people struggling. Do we have a sense, or maybe not model, because probably not time to be able to invest in that, but do we have an understanding of like going into a year with, especially with like, have we observed any trends? If energy costs are at this price, we see this much of a demand, and there's so much variability with the weather, I understand that, but do we have any sense like how far in a bad winter we might be able to get with what, comes in through the donations and the program?
No.
I would assume no, it's
Yeah.
just because there's so many variables.
No, I mean, one of the biggest things, and then and Jim said it too, one of the biggest things we've seen the last couple of years is even though we think people will need this, no one's applying for it. The lines is staying just static quo.
Really?
Which is very interesting. So we're really pushing that this year because we do feel like people need it and they should apply. So,
How many applications do we get average?
not
107.
Yeah, there was less than 200 last year, I think. Previous years, we've gotten over 200, but
How much money is there to give out? What does it average
So,
out to?
It depends what we collect every year.
Right.
But we give out, I want to say we were giving out anywhere from $113, maybe $200 in different years,
Oh.
depending on how many people apply. And just for these type of programs in general, you just find that a lot of people consider it, oh, that's not for me, or I wouldn't meet that criteria, or oh, I don't need to apply for that, or they don't know about it. You find it throughout different organizations and areas in the town where, either the Council on Aging might not be able to get people to sign up for tax credits that they could get, or, all those type of things, because some of it could be, somebody's too proud and doesn't want to take what they consider a handout. Other things could be they just don't think that they're enough in need. But we have these programs to help people, and we want to be helping them.
Well, when you look at accounts that are struggling to pay, how many of those do we have in comparison to how many people, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that would be like a good indicator. Like, we have all these accounts that are in arrears and, compared to how many are actually applying, right?
Yeah, and I think it's SMOC here, right?
yeah.
Like, one of the things for something like this, the people who are on the SMOC program or get anything, incentive for the LIHEAP, low energy efficiency stuff, so they get it through the state and all that type of stuff, you normally find those people will apply to something like this because they know about it. It's also sometimes difficult just to get people to know those programs exist as well.
So how many of those accounts do we have?
I couldn't say offhand, and I haven't even been in those systems to even run reports.
Well, because I'm just curious, like if the applications are going down, like how many accounts do we, in comparison to how many accounts could be applying for this?
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be the trend,
Yeah,
right?
sometimes you can mine those lists and actually provide the person a
Yeah.
form to say, hey, you may want to apply for this.
If
Exactly.
anyone's behind in payments, we do send information on share the more program.
Okay.
Good.
So we do reach out with anybody who's behind on payments.
Okay,
So like
and
that-
of the ones that you send out, how many come back?
That I don't know. Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know.
Right.
But we do send it to everybody. I just don't know. And to track that, we'd have to, that would be a.
Have a separate
Yeah.
spreadsheet to monitor?
Yeah, we'd have to go back and.
Yeah, we're getting to the point where that information is easier to pull. But even some of it, it's more that factor of, we collect very well. Like, I don't have any red flags here to be like, look, our outstanding balances are massive. But it'll also help once we get into the new system. It's all, there's no more going from one ERP system to another ERP system, back to a different ERP system, just to have that through Excel and try to figure that out. I think we'll have a better idea.
Well, my point being is that if there aren't a lot of accounts that need assistance, that's why we're not seeing a lot of applications come through. So that would just be one thing maybe we should monitor,
Well, good. Any last comments? If not, move to adjourn at 9:22. Do you have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Just a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas and
Yeah.
happy
Happy
Hanukkah and
holidays.
holidays, and keep it safe out there, and remember, storm, right?